This is not the first military intervention against a sovereign state in the name of justice. They tried to impose their model on others, inevitably bringing death, destruction, desolation, and dilapidation. Nor is it the first time that they retreat hastily and resignedly, ridiculed by the whole world in a complete failure. In terms of GDP growth alone, Afghanistan seems to have made rapid progress over the past 20 years. But behind the development is the consumption stimulus from foreign troops and foreign aid that accounts for more than 40% of GDP. For a country, the foundation for survival and life of its future generations has been destroyed. In Kabul province, as the Kharez was abandoned and thus no longer covered and maintained, satellites observed a series of circular holes on the ground. As early as over 1,000 years ago, the wise Afghan people had carried out underground irrigation. But today, up to 70% of Kharez may have been abandoned. In Afghanistan, where the average annual rainfall is only 240 millimeters and 80% of its lands are mountainous, water conservancy facilities are the key to agricultural production. In the past 20 years, although Afghanistan's population has increased by 87% and the GDP has increased by 705.3%, the per capita food production has fallen by nearly 16%. Foreign funds have not been able to feed Afghans. Repairing these facilities will require the efforts of at least a generation. Enveloping almost all of Afghanistan, the sandstorms can be clearly seen from more than 500 kilometers away in space. Between 2010 and 2020, northern Afghanistan experienced the most severe vegetation shrinking. On the satellite analysis images, the depth of yellow represents the intensity of the recession. Afghanistan's fragile ecological environment is further deteriorating due to logging and burning. This is a devastating consequence that may not be repaired in a generation. The lack of vegetation makes water not only more scarce during droughts, but also more prone to cause flood during rainy seasons. In May 2018, satellites observed by infrared that an uncontrolled and undrained flood in the farmland-filled Baghlad caused the moisture content of crops to exceed the warning line. Soon, they will rot in the mud and water. Deforestation has also increased landslides. In May 2014, landslides killed more than 1,000 people in Badakhshan province, northeastern Afghanistan. Due to the lack of an effective management and disaster mobilization system, there was only one excavator on site to carry out rescue operations for a long time. Agricultural production has regressed, while the development of Afghanistan's vast mining resources has been stagnating. Hajak Iron Mine, with a deposit stretching for 32 kilometers, is the largest undeveloped iron mine in Asia. In 2011, Indian and Canadian companies won the bid. But nearly a decade later, there is still no sign of development from satellite images. No hardened roads, buildings, and other infrastructure are identified here. The collapse of governance has increased all risks. Many of them are devastating. On February 13, 2021, hundreds of tankers waiting on the Afghanistan-Iran border were destroyed by fire. Other damages are the destruction of a country's history and future. Constructed at the end of the 4th century BC, this is the ancient city of Ahunam in northeastern Afghanistan. From the historical images, it can be found that Greek-style buildings, temples, palaces, arenas, amphitheaters were all over here. But now, it is almost flat on satellite images. Many people said that Afghanistan is a country without a future. But all this comes from the longest war. This is the GBU-43 massive ordnance air blast bomb, the mother of all bombs, that exceeds 9 meters and weighs 9,797 kilograms. It is the most terrifying weapon in human history, except for nuclear bombs. On April 13, 2017, the U.S. military used this weapon for the first time in Nangarhar, Afghanistan. On the satellite image, everything on the ground is smoothed out. Just like this country, nothing is left.
We will also support programs to train new police officers and to help establish and train an Afghanistan national military. The United States is also committed to playing a leading role in the reconstruction of Afghanistan.
Our mission in Afghanistan was never supposed to have been nation building. It was never supposed to be creating a unified, centralized democracy.